America just created a federal regulatory framework for payment stablecoins. And if you think that only matters to crypto traders, think again. Because stablecoins could become one of the most important pieces of financial infrastructure built on blockchain. The law at the center of this transformation is called the Genius Act. But what exactly does it do? Why does Washington care so much about stablecoins? And what could this mean for crypto, banks, and the US dollar? Welcome to BlockAlpha. We decode crypto. We don't chase hype. Let's break it down. First, what is a stablecoin? A stablecoin is a digital asset designed to maintain a relatively stable value. The most common example is a token designed to track the US dollar. Instead of holding one physical dollar, you hold a digital token designed to represent approximately $1. Stablecoins are already used for crypto trading, payments, transfers, and blockchain-based financial applications. But their growth created an obvious question. What exactly is backing these digital dollars? Who is allowed to issue them? And what happens if an issuer fails? That's where the Genius Act comes in. The Guiding and Establishing National Innovation for U.S. Stablecoins Act was signed into law in July 2025. It created a federal regulatory framework specifically for payment stablecoins. And that's important. The Genius Act isn't a complete regulatory framework for every cryptocurrency. It focuses specifically on payment stablecoins. One of its most important requirements concerns reserves. Payment stablecoins generally have to be backed on a one-to-one basis with permitted reserve assets. Those assets can include US dollars, certain deposits, and short-term US Treasury securities. The basic idea is simple. If an issuer has $1 billion worth of payment stablecoins outstanding, it needs approximately $1 billion worth of qualifying reserves backing them. The law also introduces transparency and reporting requirements around those reserves. But here's where the story becomes much bigger than crypto. US Treasuries. Think about what happens if stablecoin adoption becomes enormous. Stablecoin issuers need reserves. And some of those reserves can be held in short-term Treasury securities. That means the growth of stablecoins can become connected to the US Treasury market. And that's one reason Washington is paying attention. Stablecoins aren't just crypto tokens anymore. They could become a new way of moving dollars. Imagine a company sending money internationally. Instead of relying entirely on traditional payment systems, it could potentially use a dollar-backed digital token operating on blockchain infrastructure. Settlement can potentially happen much faster. Transfers can potentially operate around the clock. And blockchain applications can interact directly with the asset. That's why banks are paying attention too. Banks may eventually issue stable coins, provide custody, offer payment services, or build infrastructure around them. But there's an important warning. The Genius Act does not mean every stable coin is automatically safe. Regulation doesn't eliminate operational risk. It doesn't eliminate scams. And it doesn't guarantee that every crypto project connected to stable coins will succeed. There's another important distinction. The Genius Act focuses on payment stable coins. It does not automatically create rules for every other crypto asset. Bitcoin, Ethereum, tokenized securities, and DeFi involve different regulatory questions. So the Genius Act is only one piece of a much larger crypto regulatory puzzle. But it could be a very important piece. For years, Regulatory uncertainty has been one of the biggest obstacles facing the crypto industry. Now the United States has created a federal framework specifically for payment stable coins. And regulators are working on the detailed rules needed to implement it. Those details matter. Who qualifies as an issuer? What reserves are acceptable? How are redemptions handled? How are foreign issuers treated? And how will banks participate? The answers could shape the stable coin market for years. Now here's the bigger picture. The Genius Act could change the relationship between crypto and traditional finance. For years, crypto was largely presented as an alternative to the existing financial system. Now we're seeing something different. Traditional finance is increasingly adopting blockchain technology as infrastructure. Stablecoins are one of the clearest examples. They're digital. They're blockchain-based. They're built around the dollar. And now they're operating inside a formal US regulatory framework. That combination could be extremely powerful. But investors need to avoid one major mistake. Don't hear stablecoin regulation and immediately assume every stablecoin related token will explode. The success of the stablecoin industry does not automatically mean that every token connected to it captures that value. The real questions are, who issues the stablecoin? Who holds the reserves? Who earns the revenue? And what economic value does a particular token actually represent? That's the kind of question BlockAlpha focuses on. Not what's going to pump tomorrow, but what's changing underneath the market. And something is definitely changing. The United States is building rules around digital dollars. Treasury securities can become part of the reserve infrastructure. Banks are exploring blockchain-based financial services. And regulators are building systems to supervise the industry. The Genius Act doesn't mean stable coins will replace banks. It doesn't mean traditional finance disappears. And it doesn't guarantee that crypto becomes mainstream overnight. But it does something important. It gives payment stable coins a formal place inside the American financial system. And if stablecoin adoption continues growing, that could eventually affect payments, banking, treasury markets and the global role of the US dollar. The biggest story may not be that crypto is replacing traditional finance. It may be that traditional finance is slowly absorbing blockchain technology. And stablecoins could be one of the first major bridges. That's the real Genius Act story. Not just another crypto law, but potentially the beginning of a new chapter for digital dollars. Subscribe if you want to understand the laws, institutions and technologies reshaping crypto.